Okay, I hope my screen is visible to everyone. Yeah, so let's first revise what we have discussed yesterday. To the people who have missed yesterday's class, the recording is already available. So please ping your counselor. They'll be sharing you the recording as well. So first, let's summarize what we have discussed yesterday. So first, we have seen what SAP means. It means System Application and Product, and it was a German company which was started in the year 1972. And the whole purpose of developing the SAP is to integrate the business processing models. And this SAP software is not an application development but a business development software. So it is used to integrate your business processes. So compared to ERP software, how is this better? Is because this ERP software provides larger integrations because this has more functional areas in it, which gives it more flexibility. Then compared to other coding languages, how is SAP better? So in other coding languages, we'll have complicated syntaxes like we'll have to use special symbols, flower brackets, parentheses, etc. These things. But in ABAP, we don't have any of such. We'll only need to have basic knowledge on English because all the statements, all the keywords that we follow in ABAP are basic English, and this is an independent coding language, because of which we have a advantage here that you don't need to have any coding experience prerequisite for to learn ABAP. This is a totally fresh language. Then we have seen what is ECC system and what is a HANA system. ECC system or R3 system is the previous versions, or there are a few companies still using the R3 version as well, and HANA system is the new upgraded version of the SAP. So we've seen what is ERP. ERP means Enterprise Resource Planning. That means planning all the resources in a company in a systematic and optimistic way in order to reduce the cost. That's what the key intention of SAP is. Then we've seen what are all the categories that are there in the SAP. First, in general, we'll have two categories. One is technical, second is functional. So in technical, we have seen three modules, that is ABAP, Basis, and DBA. ABAP we have already discussed. Our responsibility is to extract the data that is available in the database and show it in a readable format to the end user. Then we'll have Basis. Basis will take care of the upgrade activities in the system, your login credentials, etc. These kind of activities. Then we'll have DBA, that is a database admin team, which will take care of the database related activities like database maintenance, load capacity, memory capacity, etc. things. Then we have functional areas, wherein first is sales and distribution, which take care of the sales order processing, query invoicing, etc. These kind of things that are related to sales. Then we'll have material management, which will take care of the raw materials inbound procurement and processing of the materials. Then we'll have supply chain management, and this supply chain management will take care of the order processing, like from where will my flow start in a company and where does it end. That will be taken care by your supply chain management. Then we'll have plant maintenance, which will take care of the plant activities, plant related activities. Then finally we'll have finance and accounting, which is the final step for any business process. So it starts with material procurement and ends with financial and accounting. So does anyone have any questions regarding yesterday's class? Okay, I'll take it as you know. We'll continue. So today we will see. Yesterday we have discussed about what is like briefly about the ECC system and HANA system. So now we'll dig in deep a little bit and understand what are the key differences between our ECC and HANA system, and what is the current market looking for. Is the current market looking for an R3 developer or an S4 developer? So in general, there is an architecture called as first. Let's look at the R3 architecture, also called as a three-tier architecture. So in this three-tier architecture, we'll have, so there is a reason why is it called three, because it has three components. So this is our first component. Similarly, we'll have two more components. So first layer of our R3 or three tier architecture is called as a presentation layer, and second layer is called as application layer, and final layer is called as database layer. So presentation layer is nothing but our screen. So whatever that we see on screen in SAP is called as presentation layer. That means if I'm executing any report or if I'm doing any activity on my screen, for example, if I'm editing this PPT, so this PPT is called as my presentation layer. So whatever that is visible to the user is called as a presentation layer. Then the second thing is the application layer. So the purpose of the application layer is to take the user inputs. That means if I'm giving some input, I'm writing something here. That means system should understand what I'm trying to write here, and it should show me it in the display. Like here, for example, I'm taking the example of a PPT itself. So I'm writing here on using my keyboard this text. So first the presentation layer will see what the commands that I'm trying to give from my selection screen. After that it will process it and it will show the same thing on my output screen. So the application layer purpose is the same. It will take the input from the user, whatever that you give, then it will process that in the background, and then it will communicate with the database layer. So here database layer is our final layer. So in database layer we will only have database. So database is nothing but a memory component. It is similar to what our external storages, like our hard, be it our hard disk or memory card, pen drive. These are our small storage devices which are used to store some information or some multimedia of our use. So similarly, an organizational database is on a much larger scale. That means it has more memory capacity. So if I'm having like 32 GB, 64 GB of memory cards, here you will have it in terabytes. So the memory is more. That's it. So understand the database as a memory unit which is used to store the organizational data. That's it. So once the command reaches the application layer, it will process as in, okay, user wants this particular information from the database. Then it will hit the database from there and it will try to retrieve the information from the database layer. So all the commands that you give from the presentation layer will be processed in the application layer. Once it is processed, it will go to the database and it will extract the data. It will pull the data from the database layer. After pulling the data, it will again send it back to the application server. So once it identifies the record that you're trying to fetch from the database, it will send the data back to your application layer. And in application layer, if I want to do any calculations, any mathematical calculations or any processing, if I want to do after extracting the data, that is again done in my application layer, and the final output from the application layer will be sent to your presentation server. So this, since we have three components here, this is called as an R3 system or a three-tier architecture. So let's repeat what we just seen. So first, presentation layer. In presentation layer is nothing but the user interface, the screen that a user sees and from where a user can give the command. That is called as a presentation layer. So once I have given my command, then my command should go and it should process whatever that I'm trying to give, correct? So for that reason, it will go and hit the application layer or application server. It's called layer or server. So once it reaches the application server, then it will try to process what the inputs that are given by the user. After that, it will try to hit the database and will pull the data from the database layer with respect to the commands that you have given from the selection screen or the presentation layer. So from here to here to here. So once the system identifies that there is a possible entry in the database layer that the user want to see, it will pick that data and it will transfer that data to the application server. Once it transfers to the application server, if you don't want to do any kind of post processing after extracting the data, it can either be directly sent to your presentation server, or if you want to do any kind of processing like mathematical operations, I wanted to do the sum of all these things, or I wanted to do subtotals or totals, these kind of operations, all these kind of operations will be done on your application layer, and the result will be sent to your presentation layer. So here the cycle starts with the presentation layer, goes all the way to database layer, and it will again come back to your presentation layer. So this is the three-tier architecture of SAP. So anyone have any doubts in this? Okay. So this is a three-tier architecture. So in this, what happens is most of our, so this you can so the architecture remains the same in both ECC and HANA system, but the processing order will be different in HANA system. So here what we have seen is, although we have same number of components, most of the processing is done on the application layer here. So the key concept of ECC system was the load should not be on database. The load should be on the application layer. So whatever the processing that a person wants to do, it should not happen on database. It should happen only in the application layer, because ECC system cannot handle more load on database. So that is the reason most of the processing happens on top of your application layer. All the processing happens on your application layer. So here the crucial or important layer would be your application layer, because the inputs will be processed in your application layer, and also the output that you're going to receive from the database will be processed in the same application layer. So and the less load will be on your database. And what is the use of presentation layer? It is only used to show you the input and output. That is the whole purpose of your presentation layer. Used to show you the input and output. Only used to give the commands and receive the output. That is the whole purpose of your presentation layer. Then application layer, all the processing happens on the application layer. So the most of the load is on your application layer, and the purpose of database layer is only to store the data and push the data whenever user wants it. So there will be less load on your database. So this in general is your ECC architecture, R3 or ECC architecture. So HANA architecture is also sort of similar to this, but we have some differences there. So let's look at the HANA architecture now. So as I said earlier, these three components will be same. So and the flow remains the same. I'll be giving my input from the presentation layer. The processing will be done in the application layer. Database uses it to extract my data and send it back to application layer, and the final output will be displayed on my presentation layer. So this flow will remain the same, be it ECC or HANA system. The key difference is on your application layer and database layer. So what we've seen in ECC is that most of the processing is done on your application layer, but in HANA system the most of the processing will be done on your database layer, because here this is a in-memory database. In memory database, that means it uses RAM in order to do your processing. So we have similarly what we have in our mobile phones, right? RAM and storage. So a similar concept is applied here as well. So you will have this memory concept, that is RAM concept, in the HANA system, because of which the RAM of this database is more, the processing is also more. So similar to what we have in our mobiles, the more your mobile RAM is, the greater is the processing speed, right? So similar to that, the SAP also works. Since this is having an in-memory database, it uses RAM. The processing is much faster on the database. So in HANA system, whenever we are doing anything, our focus should be that we should put less load on application layer and more load on database layer, because this can handle more load because it is having RAM in the background. So all the processing happens on the application layer. This is not correct in terms of this. So minimal processing of logic happens in application layer, and most processing happens on the database layer. So but your presentation layer remains the same. It is still used to give the input and see the output. So this is the key difference between our normal ECC system and our HANA system. So ECC system, we didn't had any SAP didn't had any separate database at that time. It used to rely on third-party databases, like we have multiple partners who can give our database, like the Oracle database, or we have SQL database. So since we were using a third-party database in ECC system, the focus of SAP was that we should not put more load on the database. We should put more load only on the application server, because SAP itself will handle the application server logic. So that was the key reason why ECC is the flow is like this, not to put the data, load on the database. But whereas coming to HANA system, HANA is an SAP database. SAP itself have developed this database called as HANA. So that is the reason they were able to incorporate the in-memory database in the system, and they are asking us to, you can put more data on, more load on our database, and we can handle it. So that is the reason the processing, although the processing order is same, is just that the load bearing capacity is shifted from application layer to database layer. So any doubts on this, anyone? Okay. So now we understand or understood what how the three-tier architecture works in terms of ECC and also in HANA system. So now let's look at what are the key differences, exactly key differences from our ECC to HANA system. So first, this is a normal database that uses SQL or Oracle or any other database that are available in the market. But coming to HANA, this is a in-memory database and uses an random access memory, the full form of RAM, to have faster processing speeds. And in ECC system, there is a concept called as data storing. So every data, anything be it a dot or a very huge sentence, is stored in the database in the format of tables. But yeah, we'll cover the topic of the tables once we get into the system. So for now, let's understand this. So ECC will use a concept of row store table concept. Whereas your HANA uses column store table concept. Rows and column are nothing but what you see here. So this is a table. So this is how the data is stored in the database too, in the format of tables. So all the horizontal lines that you see, like this, these are called as rows, and all the vertical lines that you see here, like this, in this order, so these are called as columns. So ECC will store your data in terms of in this format, like this in this format. whereas your HANA will store it in this format, in vertical format. That is the key difference. So this, since this uses row store concept, this has slower processing or extraction, whereas your HANA system, since it uses column store, it has higher extraction speed. And in ECC, we will have a few tables. So again, as I told you, like we have this row store and column store concept. We have category of tables. So we have multiple category of tables. We'll see what are all the categories in some time, but here you will only have one type of category. Only one category is available. So these are the key differences from your ECC system to your HANA system. So first, normal database that uses third-party database applications like SQL, Oracle, etc. But HANA uses in-memory database and uses RAM to have faster processing speeds. Then in ECC, you will have row store table concept. Row means it will try to hit the database in this manner, from left to right in horizontal ways. But whereas HANA has column store table concept, that means it has capability to hit the database in column wise, vertical wise. Then ECC will have slower processing because it uses row store, and we have higher extraction speed in HANA because of the column store. In ECC, we'll have multiple category of tables, and HANA will have only one table. So these are the key differences in our ECC and HANA system. Any doubts, anyone? Okay. So since we've now seen the concept of table, let's see what is a table. Table is a resource used to store our data in database in tabular format. This is the purpose of a table. Okay. There is one more key difference too. So that is uh, in ECC by default, all the tables are row store tables. But in HANA, we have flexibility to change the type of table. That means by default it will pick column store only, but it will give you a flexibility to change it. If you want to change it, you can make it as a row store table also. So this is used to store your data in a tabular format. So now let's look at what exactly a database means. So as I told you earlier, database is nothing but a which stores the information of the organization in tabular format. This is a database. In database, we'll again have multiple concepts, be it on-premise, cloud, etc., etc. But as an ABAPer, we do not deal with all those things. We just wanted to know what is a database. That's it. What is the use of the database? So now let's see the normal basic commands that we use in ABAP. So I've been telling you since yesterday that ABAP is an easiest language. It uses English as its coding language, correct? So let's look at a few commands. We'll not go into too much depth of how it is, but just a brief introduction as in how the commands will be in your ABAP. So first we'll write ABAP introduction. So a few people of you might have heard of SQL before this. It's fine if you have not heard about it too. But we use a little bit of SQL in this, so it's not mandatory that you need to know SQL way before using ABAP too, because we don't use complete concepts of SQL too. But yeah, a few commands in ABAP are related to that. So first, let's see. So I've been telling you that the uh, roles and responsibility of an ABAPer is that the data is available in your database, and our responsibility is to pull the data from the database to our presentation server. So first, in order to extract the data, we have a command called as select. So select is nothing but to extract the data, to extract the data from database. So this command is used to extract the data from database. Then we'll have update. Update is nothing but an English word again. So it is used to change the existing data. Change the existing data in database. Then we'll have insert. So the key difference between insert and update is that update will only make changes on the existing record. That means, let's say I have one employee uh, whose surname is Rohit Sharma. Now it is incorrect. So actually the name should be Rohit Agarwal. In those cases, to make any correction to the existing code, then we'll use update statement. That by using update, we can make it as, instead of Rohit Sharma, you can make it as Rohit Agarwal. That is the purpose of your update statement. But whereas your insert statement is used to add a new record to the database. That means the record should not be available earlier. So if I want to put another name or a record into our database, then we should make sure that it is not available already. For example, if I'm trying to put Sonal Gupta into my application, into my database, then that name should not be available. That is the whole purpose of our insert, to insert new record into database. So update is used to change the existing record in the database, and insert is used to insert the new record into the database. Then we'll have modify. So modify is sort of a combination of both your insert and update. So this is used to change the existing data as well as insert new data into our database. So it is used to existing into database. See, although these three might sound similar, but the way it works is totally different. Update is used to change the existing record, insert is used to add a new record, and modify is sort of a combination of both. So what it will do is, first, if I'm writing modify, it will first try to check if the record is existing in the system or not. If it is existing, already present in the system, then it will try to change it. If the record is not there in the system, then it will try to update it, it will try to insert it. First, it will try to update it. If the record is not found, it will try to insert it. So modify works in both ways. First update, if not found, then go to insert. So that is the use of modify. So we mostly deal with mostly whenever you are writing the code, we try to use modify, because modify has the flexibility to check and update both, update and insert both. That is the reason we use modify mostly. Then final one we'll have delete. So here delete is used to delete the record in database. So simple. First is select. Select in general, in normal English language, what it means is select. I want the data. That means it is used to extract the data. Simple English. Then update. Update means the data is already existing in the system. My requirement is you should be able to change this data. That is use of update. Then is insert. Insert means the data is not existing in the system already. I want you to update the data. I want you to insert the data. That is the use of insert. Then modify. First it will check whether the record that I'm trying to push into the database is existing in the system. If yes, it will try to change it. If not, it will try to insert the record. Then is the delete. Delete is used to delete the record from the database. So this in general are the normal basic commands that we have, that will in general will use in the ABAP day-to-day life. So anyone has any doubts on this? Sorry, my keyboard is not working fine. Yeah. So anyone has any doubts regarding the concepts that we have covered till now? Okay. So this in general is about ABAP introduction. So now we have a concept called as a server. So it is a normal term, like we use this type of communication whenever we try to talk to anyone. So similarly, we'll have a concept of server in SAP. So server is used to connect with SAP system. So the whole purpose of the server is to establish a connection between our desktop, means I am trying to use my SAP from this particular laptop here, but my database is somewhere else. It's there in London or US or anywhere. So I need to interact with my database, for which I need a channel, I need a platform through which I can make the communication, right? So that communication is your server. So server creates a communication between our laptop or our desktops to the database layer, or where exactly that is configured. So it is used to connect our system, so our laptop to the SAP system. So basically our system to SAP system. So that is the whole purpose of our server. Then we have a concept called as client. Client is used to divide my SAP system into multiple parts. The purpose of the client is to divide the existing SAP landscape into multiple parts. That means, let's say, I'm in US and I'm a global client, so I do my business in US, UK, London, everywhere. So in those cases, I want one client to be working in US, one client to be working in Australia, one client to be working in India. In these cases, what it will does is it will divide my server data. It will divide my SAP system into multiple clients. The client naming could be anything 100, 200, 300, like that. It is specific to every project. It will be different. So the whole purpose of client is to divide my SAP system into multiple parts, so that it can be accessed independently and differently in every region wherever I want to use this. So that is the whole purpose of my client. So any questions on server or client? All right. So this in general is how we communicate with SAP. So whenever we want to connect to our SAP system, first of all, what we'll do is we'll try to log into the server. Log into the server is nothing but your login credential. Like whenever you want to try to access your mail, you log into your Gmail, right? You will have a credentials there. So similarly, you'll have SAP credentials also. You'll have user ID and password with which you will be connecting to your server, and that with that you will be able to log into the respective client. So every client will again have different user ID and password. Every client will have different user ID and password. So by using your respective or the client ID and password that you are having access to, you will use that in order to log into your SAP system. Once you log into your SAP system, you can do your work. So this in general is how the ABAP thing works. So let's again summarize what we have discussed today. So first we have seen what is the tier 3 or R3 architecture of SAP. So first, any R3 architecture will start with the presentation layer, and the use of the presentation layer is used to input my data and see the output that is being shown from the database. Then we'll have the application layer. The use of the application layer is used to do all my logic processing. So whatever the logic that I write, whatever the things I wanted to do, whatever mathematical operations, whatever arithmetic operations that I wanted to do, all of that will be done on my application layer. So once that is done, it will send the command to my database layer to pull the data to first see what application layer will do is it will give a command to the database that like the user is trying to extract this particular record from your database. That means user wants to see the user data of Rohit Sharma, for example. He wants to see the employee name of the user Rohit Sharma. So it gives that command, give me the data of my Rohit Sharma data. So then it will, the application server, what it does is, see, user is trying to pull the data for Rohit Sharma. Do you have that data with you or not? It will ask the database layer. Then database layer will check if it is having that record in it or not. If yes, then it will show you, send that data to application layer. So after sending the data to the application layer, again, if a post processing is required, that means if I want to do any calculations after extracting my data, that is again also done in our application layer. So once the complete processing is done, it will be sent to your presentation layer, which is nothing but the screen that you see, the output screen that you see. So in ECC system, most of the processing is done on your application layer or application server. And the whenever we are writing any code, the key focus should be that we should not put much load on the database, because database is not so strong here, because we use third-party integrations here, SQL or Oracle databases. That is the reason it's not too stable. So we should not put too much data, too much load on our database. That should be our key focus. Then coming to our HANA architecture, although the layers are similar here as well, we have presentation layer, we have application layer and database layer. We have a new concept in HANA that is called as an in-memory database. So what this in-memory database does is, this includes RAM in it. This uses RAM instead of ROM, it uses RAM, because of which it gives you a faster processing power than our conventional ECC system. So here as well, the usage of presentation layers remains the same. It is used to input the data and see the output. But here the application server is used to do very minimal processing. So whatever the calculations or logics that you want to do, you should avoid doing it on the application layer, and you can do it on the database layer. So minimal processing will be done on your application layer. And most of the processing like data extraction, be it data extraction, data processing, data changing, all of that is done on your database layer. Then the key differences between ECC and HANA system. So in ECC system, we'll have a normal database that will use SQL or Oracle, which are third-party resources, third-party databases. In HANA system, we'll have an in-memory database concept that is developed by SAP itself, and it uses RAM, because of which it has more faster processing power. In ECC, we'll have row store table concept. So we've just seen what is a table. So table is nothing but normal table that you create in a Word or a PPT. So this is how the data is also stored in your database. So whenever I'm trying to extract any data from the database, ECC horizontal wise, one after the other, one after the other, like this, because of which it will take more time to extract the data. But whereas my HANA system will try to hit the database in column format, in vertical format, like this, because of which it gives a faster processing power. Then here we have slow processing power. Here we have higher extraction speed. Then in ECC we'll have multiple category of tables. The table is categorized into multiple parts. So in HANA system, all that categorization is removed and we'll only have one particular category. In ECC system, by default, all the tables are row store tables. I've just told you what is a row store table. So all the tables are row store tables. Whereas your HANA system, you have a flexibility. So by default, it will be column store, but you will have a option in your SAP to change the table into a row store table if you want to change it. So now in terms of, let's see what is the usability exactly. So currently in the beginning of this session I told you that both these systems are being used in the current market. So who uses ECC and who uses HANA? So because HANA is the new upgraded version, is it better than ECC? So the answer is all the implementation projects that were done earlier, which are completed now, you will use ECC system. That means after getting a job, after you get a job into any MNC, if it is a support project, that means the code is already there, part of the implementation is already completed, and your work is to look at the daily activities, fix small issues. In those cases you will see ECC systems in those cases. But if you go get into a job role wherein it is a completely new project, complete implementation project, wherein you will need to develop things from scratch, in those cases you will need to know HANA system. So every company has both ECC system and HANA system too. So it depends on what project you are into. So currently we can say it's almost 50-50%. So 50% of the companies are still using ECC systems, 50% of the companies are using HANA systems. So throughout our training, our focus will be we'll use real-time training modules only. So it's not like we are going to look things only on the theoretical basis first, then we'll do the mathematical things with the keyword, etc., etc. We'll not do those things. And at the once the total training is completed, normally you'll get a project to do that. But here it's not like that. You'll get a corporate training here. That means if you are getting a job as a fresher in any company, the training that you are going to get there is similar, it will be similar to the training that you're going to get here, because we have experience as a corporate trainer as well. So every day as the training progresses, we'll discuss small concepts of how ABAP works, small logic of how it works, different concepts. So once one concept is completed, we'll be giving you an assignment at the end of the week. So that assignment that we'll give you is the requirement that you're going to get once you get into a job. That means once you get the job, you will have a requirement from your client or business that, okay, please develop this application, I want this data to be seen in the output, I will give this input, and this is the output that I want to see. That this will be your basic requirement that you will get from the business. So our assignments will be like that only. So you have proper documentation, you will have proper requirement. So every object development that you do here will be the development that you are going to do once you get a job. So even in your resume also, you will need to put a few pointers that uh, in my previous company I have worked in these many modules, these many objects, this is what I have developed. You will have to highlight these things, correct? So those highlighters will be done every week. So every week the object that you develop, every week the object that you complete, will be the object that you are gonna show in your resume. So it will be a complete corporate training, not normal theoretical training that you're gonna get. Yeah, coming back to this. So we've seen what is a table here. So table is a resource that is used to store our data in the database in tabular format. So table is nothing but what I've drawn here. So similarly, I have two columns now. ECC and HANA are two columns. Similarly, if I have 10 columns, then it will be a 10 column database. If I have 15 columns, it will have 15 columns. Similarly, the rows can be different. You can have lakhs of rows. You can have hundreds of columns. So the data will be stored in your in similar manner of your table. Then what is a database? So database is nothing but a memory area where it is used to store your information, nothing but a memory concept, simple. So all the data has to be stored somewhere, and database is that particular place which stores your information of the organization. Then coming to the ABAP introduction, we have seen few statements that are used in the ABAP. First is the select. Select purpose is to select the data from the database, extract the data from database based upon the conditions that you give. For example, if you want to give a condition that I want to see all the Ganesh in the with the name Ganesh, how many people are there in my company, I want to see that. Then in that case, you will pass the condition that select all Ganeshes from my database. So that is the use of your select to extract the data from the database. Then update is used to change the existing data, like the previous example that we have taken. For example, the name is incorrectly updated, Rohit Sharma. I want to change the name to the surname from Sharma to Agarwal. In that case, I will use update Rohit Sharma to update Agarwal, simple. So even the logic will be similar to that. So when you read or write the logic in ABAP, it will be like you're reading English, not like you're writing any code. Because again, as I told you, we will not use any flower brackets as in such. So in C language, if you know that we'll have printf, scanf, these kind of statements which are very confusing and very hard to remember syntaxes too. But here you will not have any as in such, because if you want to select the data, select, update the data, update, insert the data, insert. So it's very pretty much basic English. So when you're writing the code or reading the code, it will be like you're reading English. That's it. Then is our insert. Insert is used to insert a new record into the database table which is not present already. Then we'll have modify. Modify is first, it will check whether the data is already existing in the system or not. That means it will first hit the update function, update keyword. Is it there or not? If yes, it will update it. If not, then it will go to insert and it will try to insert my record into the database. That is the use of my modify statement. Then finally we will have delete. Delete is nothing but used to delete the data from the database. So if any record is incorrectly updated, or let's say I have one employer who has left the organization recently. In that case, I should not store that employee information, correct, after a certain period of time. So in those cases, I'll use the delete statement to delete, okay, this particular user or this particular employee has left my organization, so please delete the data from my database. In those cases, we'll use delete statement to delete the record from the database. Then we have seen what is a server, what is a client. Server is nothing but we need to interact with the SAP system by sitting in our home or in our offices. But our database is not there in our office or in our home. So server is used to establish the connection between, sorry, yeah, server is used to establish the connection between our system means, when I'm saying our system, I mean our laptop or desktop or whatever it is, our system to the SAP system. It is used to connect these two systems. Then we'll have client. Client is used to divide my SAP system into multiple parts. That means my SAP system is independent. It will have it's very large. So I want to restrict my data such that the users in the UK should not see the data that are there in the US. In those cases, I'll create a separate client for my UK people and separate client for my US people, and that will be restricted based upon your user ID and password. Because to log in into any client, you will need user ID and password, and these will be different for each and every client. So doesn't matter if you are having access to 100 client, for example, client name is 100. So the client names will be in numbers only. We will not have alphabets in SAP. The client names will be 100, 200, 101, 102, 000, like that only. The number could be anything depending upon your project. But if I'm having access to 100 client, I cannot access 101 or 102 clients, because my accesses are only limited to my client only. So this client will give that extra security, so that my data is secured only on one particular region. That means it is only secure in UK. It cannot be accessed in US. So that is done by using this client. And these user IDs and passwords are given by our basis team. So here I've told you, is it? Yeah, here I told you, right? Basis team will take care of our upgrade activities and login credentials, etc. So these divisions of the client and server information will be taken care by your basis team. So at any given point of time, if your login ID, or if you're not able to log into your system, or the server is not working, then the first point of contact will be your basis team. So as an ABAPer, our responsibility is to again check what are the inputs that are being given from the selection screen, process them, extract the data from the database, change the data a little bit if the user wants you to change it a little bit, then change the data in the application layer, then present the same to your presentation layer. So this whole architecture is what ABAP is. So in it we'll have different concepts too, again to change this data, extract the data. So but in general, on high level, these are the our normal everyday activities. This is what we do: extract the data, change the data, display the data. Simple, that's it. We'll not take care about any server issues, any client issues, any user issues. We'll not take care of all that. And we are not client facing also. Like yesterday we have discussed that we are not client facing, so we will not directly talk to the client. We are there in the background, we will work in background. So our functional teams, so let's say I want to if a requirement comes in saying that a new report should be developed in sales area, in those cases your S&D, sales and distribution team, will contact the client, will try to communicate with the user. They will understand the requirement from the user. Functional will prepare the documentation for you, and they will give you a detailed document, as in what should be developed, how should be developed, what are the tables involved, how should you select the query, so how should you select the data from the database, and what should be the output. So everything will be documented whenever you're getting the requirement. So you will not have any pain to understand user requirement also, because your functional team is going to do it for you. So once they do it, they'll give you the requirement. You need to just analyze the document, see everything. If you have the complete information in the document, well and good, you can start your development. If you're not having the information, again, you don't need to reach the user. You need to contact your functional person that, see, the information that you have given is not sufficient, so I need more information in order to complete this. So kindly provide this information. If functional is aware of that information, he'll give it to you right away. If not, functional himself or herself will try to communicate with the user and will get that additional data for you. So you will never communicate with the client. For that reason, you don't need to have greater or great communication skills. Just basic English skills are enough in order to survive as an ABAP consultant. But all the functional consultants will need to have excellent communication skills, because they are client facing. They will receive feedback from the client. You will not receive any feedback from the client. You will not receive anything, any requirement from the client. So that is one more advantage of being an ABAP consultant. Yeah, so any doubts anyone from yesterday's class or today's class?